Hello nation, and welcome back to the homestead. Well, temperatures are getting cooler, starting to get frost on the ground. You know what that means? Time to start cranking up the old wood stove, baby. My favorite time of year is wood burning time.
It is. It gets cold here now, and now it's time to fire up the wood burning stove. You know, with the price of gas and everything going up right now, I am so glad that we installed ours a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, right? But with that being said, you know, there's a lot of people talking about wood burning stoves. And does it mean that it's practical for everybody to have a wood burning stove?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I don't know. I think there's some good points and some bad points.
All good.
Well, what are some of the good points?
It's a wood burning stove.
Okay.
So, let's see. What are some good points? Well, it can be dual purposed.
Yes.
You can heat your home, and if you get the right one, you know, well, pretty much any of them, really. You could boil water on them. You could fry bacon on them, which I wouldn't suggest that, depending on your flooring. Not speaking from experience. You know, you can dry your clothes. We've dried our herbs. You know, hang them up around it by there, and it helps dry out the herbs.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's something romantic about the fire and the way to be able to heat the house, and you know, and then there's, you know, when you start cutting your own wood, you're a little bit connected to the way that things used to be. Right. I mean, you want me to keep going?
Yeah,
I could probably go on for 30 minutes while everybody
Let's not do
should
that.
have, you know, but in all honesty, with the way that, you like how you mentioned with the prices and everything going up, but also when you take into account, you know, because of COVID and all that stuff, we're starting to see more and more rolling blackouts, brownouts, and stuff like that. And so you're no longer dependent upon the grid to
be able to stay warm.
Be able to stay warm. Right. And, you know, if you have a blizzard or an ice storm or something, like we had a bad ice storm a couple years ago, we lost power for like a week.
Right.
And so that takes that stress off the plate. But it also benefits those who can't heat with wood, because you're one less household that's draining from the system.
Right, exactly. And it's a sustainable thing and a fairly cost-effective thing compared to traditional electric heat, correct?
I mean, yeah. I mean, now, being honest, you know, being as transparent as can be, there are some hidden costs that go along with installing a wood stove. In fact, we just did a video on that. If you guys want to check that out, we'll put it up in here. But once you get past the installation and everything, and as long as you have a reliable wood source, then you're absolutely right. It is sustainable, and it's, you know, the only thing you're really out then is sweat.
Right, sweat equity.
Go burn those calories.
Exactly. Keeps you nice and shape.
Yeah, my shape is round. It's like a pear.
Okay, so all of those things are pretty convincing. What are some reasons why you wouldn't do a wood burning stove?
That's cute. Why wouldn't you do a wood burning stove?
Well, and I'm always the
Negative Nancy.
So I would say some of the downfalls, or some of the reasons why you wouldn't do a wood burning stove. One would be if you don't have a good wood source, because then you have to worry about finding somebody that can either, you have a way to transport it back to your place, or you have to cut it, you know, there's all kinds of things that go into sourcing wood just to get it to this point.
Right, and if you don't have that wood source available to you where you can go out and fall the tree, you know, collect your own firewood that way, then the cost may, with the way that things are rising right now, I still think it would be cheaper.
Right.
But 2 years ago, if you had to go and purchase a cord of wood, you know, it may
have evened out.
Even though I still think that it would have been a little bit cheap. I don't know what a cord of wood is going for, but you know, in all honesty, that's the only negative that I could see, unless you live in like a neighborhood or an HOA or your county doesn't permit it, or your homeowner's insurance company, they say no.
Yeah, that's something you got to check into, is definitely that. Another big hiccup that we ran into is living in a small town out in the country, trying to find somebody that would install it.
Yes.
To make sure it was done safely. That's something you really have to, you don't want to burn your house down.
Yeah.
So.
And in all honesty, I would strongly suggest, if you are gonna do this, to find somebody who has experience installing wood stove. This is not something that you want to take on as a first timer, because depending on if you have a metal roof or a shingled roof or what you got going on and your ceiling, there's so many things that you have to do to make sure
that it's safe
and your house doesn't catch on fire.
Yeah.
That, normally I would say, anybody with any type of construction skills and a little bit of common sense can pretty much do anything.
Right.
If you sit down and you do your research. But this is one of those things
very
that I feel I'm very handy with my hands, and I can pretty much tackle just about anything. I'm pretty mechanically inclined, that I was even kind of like, I don't want to trust my, I can do that. I can do that, and then the house catches on fire.
Yeah.
So that you're right. That is definitely one downfall. If you can't find somebody that can come in and install everything correctly,
right?
And make sure you got the right insulated pipes and all that stuff.
And another thing that we ran into, and this is another one to really take into consideration, is the way that a lot of floor plans are on houses. Even with ours, it was a little challenging trying to figure out where was the most effective place to put it so that you could heat the whole house. Because some of these wood burning stoves, I don't know from experience, but they'll put out a lot of heat, and they'll sweat you out of your house if you don't have it in a good spot to where you can move the heat around.
Okay, what she's dancing around trying to say is that when we went looking for this one, you go off of the square footage of your house.
Right.
And my wife decided, well, I'm just going to go to the next level up.
We have 1,600 square feet, and the one that they had was 15 to 16, 17. I was like, no, we're going for the 22 to 2,400.
Yeah. She went big. And so it really doesn't take much to get the house to 80 degrees.
Yeah.
2 pieces of split wood and the house is...
But we have ceiling fans and fans that we blow things around to make sure that the air can circulate. So that's one thing that, if it's going to be practical for you, is if you're in a situation where the layout would allow for the heat to circulate well.
And what I was getting ready to say was that if you think that you may be doing any add-ons to your house or whatever, which is one of the reasons why Robin went to the next bigger one, because we do have plans that we would like to square off some house and add an atrium and stuff like that, that she went to the bigger one. So if you're thinking of remodeling at all in any way, shape, or form, and it's going to add square footage to your house, whether you're thinking it's going to be 5 or 10, just go ahead now and get the bigger one. While your house is still small, you won't burn as much wood to get the house up to where you're comfortable. But then once you do that remodel, you don't have to go back and try to
redo
it, or just burn through wood and add fans and stuff to try to get stuff circling around to be able to heat the entire house.
So talking about a sustainable wood source, if you don't have that and you have to purchase your wood, you definitely want to make sure you have somewhere to store it, because if you have it just laying out somewhere, even with a tarp, you're talking about stuff getting wet. If you live in an area where you get snow, that first layer is going to be completely useless.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you have a place to store the wood as well, to keep it out of the elements, so that you don't have any problem getting your fire started.
Yeah. And a little simple wood shed's real simple, real easy to build. That way, whether you're harvesting your own or if you have to buy it, it's definitely part of the practicality of heating with wood or even cooking with wood, is to have a place that, one, the wood can still get air and be able to breathe, but you also need to keep it dry.
Right.
So if you guys are thinking about getting a wood stove and you're thinking about, is it practical for us? You know, is it not practical for us? You know, and you guys like this video and you're a little nervous because we said something about the hidden costs. Well, here it is. Bam! Go check out that video on the hidden cost to installing a wood-burning stove. Thanks for coming by the Big Bear Homestead. God bless.
And have a nice day.